Hey, what's up guys? My name is Michael Westbrook. Thanks for checking out this video. Today we are going to be talking Klons. We are going to plug up an original silver Klon. We're going to A/B it with a clone from Mythos. And then I'm just going to talk to you guys about what I like about this circuit, what I listen for in a great Klon clone, kind of how I use it, and what I'm trying to accomplish when I use this style of overdrive. I just wrapped up a 3-month tour at the end of last month. I think it's been about 7 weeks since I was able to get out my last video. Just with bouncing back and forth between being on the road and just being home maybe 2 or 3 days each week. So this video, as I get back into the swing of things, is going to be a little different than my normal format, a little more off the cuff. Let's go ahead and dig in. We'll take a listen to just the quote-unquote clean sound. Right now I've got my American Vintage Reissue Telly with Fralin. These are blues specials. I always get a ton of questions about this guitar and these pickups. So they're kind of normal Telly pickups, but just slightly overwound, about 5%. So they're a little hotter, not quite as bright as a normal Telly pickup, but I think they sound great. I've been using them for years. I've got this plugged into the pedal board that you'll see here just in a second, and then that is running into my matchless C30. That is a Samson era matchless for those of you who care. That is running into a 2-notes captor, and then I'm using some of my own IRs. All right, so right now I have the poly Verbs on. I've got just a little bit of plate on there just to give some dimension. Not a ton, as you can see the mix is way down there, but I love this thing for that kind of just simple plate style reverb or spring type reverbs. It runs like convolution reverbs and that kind of thing. So that was our clean sound there, quote unquote clean. It's got a little grit from the amp. Let's turn on the Centaur here. So obviously, to my ear, very thick, very rich. I've got it kind of providing a little bit of gain, a little bit of boost there. I think the interesting thing to me about the original Klons, I've played a few through the years, that a lot of people don't mention is that they have this kind of compression to the attack. There's something about the attack that I feel like most Klon clones don't quite get right, or just isn't quite the same. And I'm not sure if that has to do with the age of these pedals at this point. I mean, these pedals are getting some years on them, and so I don't know if that's an aging thing, but they always feel like the attack of the notes is a little more compressed. It's a little softer. They might be a hair darker. That is, to me, one thing that I always hear in the original Klons that most clones don't get quite right. One thing that I always love using Klons for is just boosting the amp or boosting an already overdriven signal. I feel like the mid-range character that they add really adds some weight to single note stuff for especially for lead type stuff. I find myself using it a lot on higher note stuff. I love hitting a Klon style boost just because it adds this thickness to the notes, and I don't feel like things get thin, if I didn't use some kind of boost, or if I just used a clean boost. It just kind of fattens things up, thickens it up. I can obviously add a little bit of gain from the pedal, or I can just use the pedal to boost the front end of an amp or an overdrive pedal. Then we'll turn that off. You can hear what it sounds like without it. So now let's A/B between the original Klon and this clone from Mythos, the Mjolnir. I believe I'm saying that right. I've kind of dialed these in so that they are fairly close. I will say A being similar pedals like this, it can be really tough to get them to sound exactly right. I find even depending on what I'm playing, whether it's single note or chords or certain kinds of parts, one type of part might sound really spot on, and then another type of part, it sounds very different. And so I want to keep tweaking it. But I feel like for right now, this is pretty close. I found myself kind of darkening up the Mjolnir just a touch, as well as trying to find the gain placement right. It was hard to feel like I was in the right spot. Sometimes it felt like it had more gain, that the Mythos had a touch more gain. Sometimes it felt like it had less, depending on this type of sound or part. But you guys be the judge. Y'all take a listen. Again, I've kind of dialed them in as close as I can get them. We'll start with the original Klon here. So hard to get them just right. So the difference that I hear with these, and again, I've spent a little more time A/Bing these and kind of comparing them in different settings and all of that. I feel like the Mjolnir actually cuts a little more bass out of the signal than the original. Now, I will say that Mythos, they designed this and really, from what I can tell, painstakingly A/B'd it and compared it and made it sound exactly like their Klon Centaur. So, they say that it's as close as you can get, really, with, modern day components and a modern build. I think it sounds incredible. It sounds great. But compared to this Klon specifically, I think that it lacks a little bass. It lacks a little low end, or the low mids kind of aren't quite as strong as the original. The original definitely, to me, sounds a little darker. The Mythos seems like it has a little more top end extension. It doesn't sound quite as rolled off on the top end. And I will say that that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think depending on what you're going for, depending on what you're looking for, you might actually prefer that little bit more clarity on the high end there. I especially appreciate this aspect of it when I'm stacking overdrives. As you've probably seen it already, I've got this Norton dual channel preamp right here, which I love for just kind of a basic overdrive sound, kind of always on overdrive. A lot of guys don't know about this pedal. I think it sounds incredible, and I made a video a little while back about it, just because I hadn't really seen anybody talk about it. It sounds great. I find myself using it a ton here in my home studio. Kind of in a way sits in a similar place for me as the Lightspeed overdrive. Lightspeed is on my board out on the road, and so I need to pick up another one, but when I don't have it, I go to the Norton and it sounds great. Here's the sound with the Norton. So again, just kind of a basic overdrive sound there. This would be kind of my first stage, or maybe my second stage if I was, had the amp dialed in like this, depending on what I'm trying to do. But let's hear the original Klon, and then we'll go to the Mjolnir, and you can kind of hear what it does for the sound, kind of stacking how they compare in that manner. So there for me, I definitely hear or like the clarity that the Mjolnir is giving a little more. Let's back the treble off just a hair and see if we can get it a little more like the original. Again, I think the original has more lows or more of a mid push, just ever so slightly. Just makes it sound a little thicker. Again, I could sit here all day long and A/B these back and forth, but they are super, super close, which I think ultimately brings up the question, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to spend this much money on a Klon? Obviously, at this point, they are collector's items, so there's an investment aspect to it, a return on investment there, but for me, it's not worth it. I mean, the Mjolnir sounds incredible. It sounds great. There are also lots of other Klon clones out there that sound incredible too, or offer different options. All that being said, the Silver Klon does have something a little extra. There's something about it that it does, at least to my ear, that sounds a little different, a little more vintagey, or there's something about the compression, there's something about the top end that is a little different, a little chewier. I don't say that to, you know, further the you know, all the magic, you know, talk around Klons. But I think it goes with any great gear. Sometimes just gear has something special to it, something that it kind of does. That's not to say that you can't get 99% of that type of sound from something else. But, you know, this gear is legendary for a reason, right? I think it's easy as players to, you know, have this idea of a sound or that a piece of gear is going to get us this incredible sound that we can't live without. But in the end, I think it really comes down to the player. It comes down to your ear and how you're going to dial things in, you know, how you're hearing things, and then ultimately just how you play, your technical ability and whatnot. So I think as I get older, as I play more and more gear, I realize that more and more, and, you know, have to talk myself out of worrying about having some super expensive piece of gear that is supposed to be, you know, the thing or have that it factor. That's not to say that great gear isn't a lot of fun and doesn't sound great and can give you some great sounds, but I think there is definitely diminishing return, especially if you're spending all of your time worrying about the gear as opposed to practicing or, you know, trying to figure out how to get better or what you want to accomplish creatively, what you want to accomplish musically. I think that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Does the original Klon hold up? What do you guys think about how it compares to the Mjolnir? Obviously, this video could have been a lot longer. I could have dove into all the different sounds and different settings and all of that, but I at least wanted to give you guys a taste of what it sounds like stacked, what it sounds like with this particular signal chain and all of that. All right, until next time, I'll see you out there.